Our sense of touch is a mix of pressure, warmth, cold, and pain. As we learned last week, touch is important for our well-being and development. As we learned in our second week of class, our somatosensory cortex is associated with physical sensations. So let's talk about one specific aspect of touch: pain. Pain is how our bodies warn us that something is wrong. When we're in pain, our body knows that we should take it easy so that we can begin the recovery process. It also enhances our self-awareness, it arouses empathy from others, and helps us connect socially. Pain reflects bottom-up sensations and top-down cognition. The biopsychosocial model can help us better understand pain. So let's start with some of the biological influences. Nociceptors, which are mostly in your skin, but also in your muscles and your organs, they detect harmful temperatures, pressure, or chemicals. And women tend to be more sensitive to pain than men. Gate control theory suggests that our spinal cord contains a neurological gate that controls the transmission of pain messages to the brain. So small spinal cord nerve fibers conduct most pain signals. So an injury activates the small fibers and opens the gate. The pain signals can then travel to your brain and you feel pain. But large fiber activity, stimulated by massage, electrical stimulation, or acupuncture, can close the pain gate by blocking pain signals. So brain to spinal cord messages can also close at the gate. Our body produces natural painkillers called endorphins, which are released in response to either severe pain or exercise. Psychology can also influence pain. The attention we give to our pain can alter our perceptions of it, and our expectations of pain can also influence our perception of it. One of the most interesting influences on pain is the social cultural influences. So we perceive more pain when others also seem to be experiencing pain. So when we feel empathy for other people who are experiencing pain, our brain activity can actually mirror the activity of somebody who is actually in pain. When we treat pain, we can treat it both psychologically and physically. So we can control pain in several ways, from things like drugs, surgery, massage, exercise, and relaxation training. Placebos can also be really effective. Our brain can respond to placebos by releasing endorphins. Distractions also work well. By distracting ourselves, we can activate brain pathways that inhibit pain and increase pain tolerance. Hypnosis has also shown to be effective. Hypnosis may work because of social influences and because of dissociation. So those are some ways that we can treat physical pain. But how about emotional pain? Interestingly, some of the ways that we can treat physical pain can also treat emotional pain. So one study found that acetaminophen could reduce people's feelings of social pain. So why do you think that is? It turns out that our body is really bad at distinguishing between physical pain and emotional pain. The neural pathways are very similar. Therefore, if we're going through a bad breakup, temporarily using acetaminophen may actually be a realistic way of helping us dull our emotional pain. Our sense of taste, called gustation, involves basic sensations. We experience these sensations as either sweet, sour, salty, bitter, or umami, which is a savory, meaty taste. Taste is actually an important sensation for survival. Food that tastes good used to provide our ancestors with energy. Food that tasted bitter may have indicated that it was toxic. This table shows some of the important survival functions of our basic taste. Taste is a chemical sense. So when food hits our taste buds, neurotransmitters are released. Our taste receptor cells send messages to a partner cell in our temporal lobe, which then processes taste. And our taste receptors reproduce every week or two. But as we age, we have fewer taste buds and our sensitivity to taste also decreases. On average, we take 500 million breaths over the course of our life. Our sense of smell, called olfaction, is another chemical sense. When we smell things, molecules of a substance are carried by air to a tiny cluster of receptor cells at the top of each nasal cavity. We have 20 million olfactory receptors. Other animals tend to have even more olfactory receptors and use their sense of smell to survive, communicate, and navigate. Humans can also use their sense of smell to connect with others. Infants and their moms will learn each other's scent, and the smell of our partner makes our stress levels drop. Smells can conjure up emotions and memories. We might smell things like fresh cut grass and think fondly of summertime. Smells can also influence our reactions. If we're exposed to a fishy smell, we start to think that something in our environment might be fishy. So we become suspicious. If we walk into a room that smells bad, we might judge others more harshly than if we had walked into a neutral smelling room. Our senses don't act alone. Our senses influence one another. A classic example of this is the combination of taste and smell. When we're sick and have a stuffy nose, food might not taste as intensely as it normally does. Vision and hearing also influence each other. A classic example of this is the McGurk effect. There's a video on Moodle that demonstrates this, but basically, what we see influences how we hear things. If someone's lips don't match up with the sound they're making, our mind might get tricked into hearing something different. Our physical sensations can also interact with brain circuits that are responsible for cognition. This is called embodied cognition. One example of embodied cognition at play is that we may be more open to being social and friendly with people when we're drinking a warm drink. Therefore, it might be a good idea to chat with friends over a warm cup of coffee if you're trying to enhance your friendships.